Walk into a Clerkenwell workshop in the year 1800, and the first thing you notice is the silence. Not the silence of emptiness, the silence of concentration. Behind every low window, bent over a leather pad no bigger than an open book, a man adjusts a gear train with tools he ground himself. The wheel he is fitting is the size of a shirt button. The tolerance he is working to is 1/1000th of an inch. He can feel it through his fingertips before he can measure it with a gauge. Britain makes roughly half the world's watches at this moment, around 200,000 a year. The label "Made in England" carries weight that no Swiss mark and no French mark can yet match. The men of Clerkenwell know this. The men of Coventry, of Liverpool, of Prescot in Lancashire, where the rough movements are pressed before being shipped south to be finished and cased, they know it too. Britain is not merely a watchmaking country. For the better part of 2 centuries, it has been the watchmaking country. That certainty is about to become the most expensive mistake in the history of British industry. In 1842, a Swiss watchmaker named Pierre Frederick Ingold walks into Clerkenwell. He is 55 years old. He has spent his adult life trying to convince people, first in France, then in Switzerland, now in England, to let him build machines that do what craftsmen do, only faster. His British watch and clockmaking company, incorporated at 75 Dean Street in Soho, promises something the workshops of St. John's Square have never managed. 100,000 watches a year, with every part interchangeable, every movement assemblable by a trained hand in minutes rather than hours. Ingold's machines exist. They work. The men who inspect them admit they work. The problem is not the machines. The problem is what the machines mean. If Ingold succeeds, the skills that the men of Clerkenwell have spent a lifetime acquiring, the feel of a properly set pallet stone, the sound of a balance wheel running true, the knowledge that lives in the fingertips and nowhere else, are worth nothing against a mechanical process any literate worker can be taught in a week. In March 1843, over 2,000 tradespeople pack the Crown and Anchor Tavern near the Strand. They are not merely opposed to Ingold. They are terrified, not of failure, but of his success. They petition Parliament. They argue that his machinery is a threat to British livelihoods, to British skill, to the British character of the trade. Parliament listens. Parliament agrees. Ingold's bill is defeated. His company collapses. He takes his machines and his drawings and leaves London, and gives everything Britain just voted to destroy to the 2 countries Britain least needs to strengthen. The Swiss build the factories. The Americans build the factories. The machines Clerkenwell turned away at the door become the infrastructure of the industries that will take the British market one order at a time for the next century. By 1900, Britain produces around 100,000 watches a year. The world market has grown to millions of units. Britain's share is a rounding error, not because its craftsmen are not skilled, because skill cannot be scaled, and Britain chose craft over scale when it had the chance to do both. The story does not end there. History does not end at its lowest point. It tends to find one more moment of false hope to offer. In 1947, a company called Smith's Industries opens a watch factory in Cheltenham and begins building mechanical movements from scratch. 15 jewel calibers, English steel, government-backed, British-made in their entirety. By 1953, Smith's is the last major British watchmaker of any meaningful scale, and in May of that year, the company earns its moment. The British Everest expedition carries Smith's deluxe watches on its climbers' wrists. At 11:30 in the morning on the 29th of May, 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay stand at the top of the world. Hillary's own words in a period advertisement the following year were, "I carried your watch to the summit. It worked perfectly." The news reaches London in time to be announced at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. For one brief, brilliant moment, a British watch is at the summit of everything. Smith's runs advertisements. They name a line of watches after the mountain. For a few years, the momentum feels real. Nobody in the Cheltenham factory knows that Christmas Day, 1969, is already on the calendar. Nobody knows that the question of British watchmaking has already been answered 10,000 miles away in a laboratory none of them have heard of. The laboratory belongs to Suwa Seikosha, a division of Seiko operating in Japan's Nagano Prefecture. The project that begins there in 1959 carries the designation 59A. Its engineers are not trying to make a better mechanical watch. They are trying to make the concept of a mechanical watch obsolete. The physics are unambiguous. A mechanical watch is regulated by a balance wheel oscillating at 4 cycles per second. The tick you hear when you hold a watch to your ear, a quartz crystal vibrating under electrical charge, oscillates at 8,192 cycles per second. That is not an improvement. It is a different universe of precision. The team spends a decade making the technology small enough to fit on a wrist. In 1964, a portable Seiko quartz clock serves as the official backup timer for the marathon events at the Tokyo Olympic Games. But it is still the size of a suitcase. The engineers have 5 more years of work ahead. On Christmas Day, 1969, in Tokyo, the Seiko Astron 35 SQ goes on sale. Accurate to plus or minus 5 seconds per month, at a moment when a mechanical watch deviating by 5 seconds per day is considered a good one. Priced at 450,000 yen, the cost of a small family car, only around 100 are sold before the year ends. It is not a disruption yet. It is a proof of concept. The slogan on the marketing materials is not modest. Someday, all watches will be made this way. They are right. The destruction that follows is methodical and total. Seiko licenses its core quartz patents publicly, a deliberate move to accelerate adoption and set the global standard. Citizen and Casio launched their own quartz watches in 1974. Japanese watch production triples through the decade, surging from 24 million units in 1970 to nearly 90 million by the decade's end. By 1977, Seiko is the largest watch company in the world by revenue. By 1980, Japan has overtaken Switzerland as the world's largest watch producer. The Swiss, who operated 1,600 watchmaking companies in 1970, are reduced to 600 by 1983. Their workforce falls from 90,000 to 33,000 in 13 years. Names that had been making watches for a century and a half close in a season. If the Swiss, with their centuries of expertise and their mountains of capital, cannot weather what is happening, Britain has no chance at all. Smith's Industries ceases watch production in 1979. The factory in Cheltenham stops. The last watches come off the line carrying the name of the company that once made headlines at a coronation. There is no ceremony proportionate to what is ending. The machines go quiet. The skilled hands find other work. The inscription "Made in England" disappears from the dial, and nobody puts it back. Clerkenwell is still there. The streets around St. John's Square are full of restaurants and design studios and the offices of people who sell things that do not exist physically. The buildings are the same buildings. If you know what you're looking at, you can read the scale of the rooms, built for light, not for warmth, and understand what they once held. In the Clockmakers Museum in London, the Smith's Deluxe that Edmund Hillary carried to the summit of Everest sits in a glass case. 15 jewels, an English caliber, made in Cheltenham. It worked perfectly. What is in that case is not only a watch, it is the full arc of what Britain built, and what Britain chose not to protect, not once but twice. First, in 1843, when 2,000 craftsmen voted to block the only man who could have saved them from the future. Then in 1969, when a single Japanese watch made the question academic forever. George Daniels, the greatest British watchmaker of the 20th century, spent the decades after Smith's closed working alone in a London workshop, building one watch at a time by hand. He invented a new escapement in 1974, an achievement so significant that Omega eventually adopted it for mass production. He worked in the manner of the Clerkenwell craftsman because no one had given him any other option. His protege, Roger W.C. Smith, continues on the Isle of Man today. 18 watches a year, entirely in-house, entirely by hand. He has said plainly, "You cannot rebuild a sector doing what I do." He is right. He builds them anyway, because someone has to carry it. Close your eyes. Go back to the workshop in 1800. Smell the tallow, the machine oil, the warmth of metal being worked by a fire 2 rooms away. Hear the balance wheel ticking in its cage. Feel the stillness of a man whose hands know more than his words can say. Open your eyes. The workshop is a restaurant. The balance wheel is under glass. The industry that built it is in Japan. We did not lose British watchmaking to a superior product. We lost it the first time in a room full of frightened craftsmen choosing to protect what they had rather than build what they needed. And we lost it finally on Christmas Day, 1969, when one watch from Tokyo made that choice irreversible. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and click the next video on your screen for another interesting breakdown on watches.